I made $12,000 in gross revenue, all because she registered for an event, didn't show up, and we stayed in touch and provided value over 18 months. Need at least a once a week communication over time to remain top of mind. You want to remind them that indecision or no decision has a consequence, right? This email will take it to you will wake people up who've been dead in your world. And that's what it's called. Welcome back. And let me tell you something, I've never been more excited than right now in this moment for this particular video. I want to tell you a quick story. Back in 2003, I bought my first email marketing software. It was called GetResponse. I do believe they're still available to this day. And I bought that out of one frustration and one frustration only. And that was back during those days, I was taking in about 20 to 30 new prospect conversations per month. And then in my business pipeline, I was a business to consumer company at the time that I was involved in. I would have anywhere from 5 to 10 transactions happening at any given time. So think about 20 to 30 new prospects per month on top of 5 to 10 transactions per month. And each of those transactions had 5 to 7 people involved in the production of that transaction from start to finish. I was overwhelmed with calls by that time. By the way, let me be clear, we weren't doing text messages back then. We really were just getting started with email. Everything was a phone call back then. Sorry, y'all, for those that are not used to just all this voicemail, but everything was by phone. Everything was face-to-face meeting. Everything was by phone for the most part. And everything was time consuming. I was looking for leverage. I was looking for a way to consistently keep in touch with those prospects. By the way, so if you take 20 or 30 prospects times 12 months, that's 240 to, my math would say 360 new prospects. Well, how do you keep in touch with all of those prospects? Because all of them aren't ready to buy today. One thing I'd let you start this particular lesson with is that all prospects will convert in one of 3 time periods. They'll convert now. When I say convert, that means they'll become a customer or a client or whatever that looks like in your business. They'll become a client now, option 1. They'll become a client later, option 2. Or they might become a client never, option 3. We don't like number 3. But in order for us to get more now customers, we have to do our job of nurturing those later customers. And so today we're going to talk about email marketing and how it can affect not only your ROI, which is the primary reason we're here to talk today, is number one, how email drives the highest level of ROI, return on investment in your digital marketing campaigns, and why so many people misunderstand what it's about and how to use it effectively today in our modern market. I'm going to give you 3 quick examples, and then we're going to jump right into the training, because if you don't believe email works, if you haven't had success with email, I'm going to assure you by the time you're done today, that's going to be ready to change. In 2004-ish, a prospective client came into my world back in those days, and she was a later prospect. Now, the interesting part about it was I didn't even know who she was, because back then we were running seminars live in our local community, and she'd signed up for a seminar and didn't come to the seminar. So I never got a chance to meet her. But because I was in the mode and mindset of saying, oh, if someone comes into my world, then how can I leverage my communication over time to stay top of mind? If you're writing things down and taking notes, write down the phrase top of mind. See, in marketing, we need to remain top of mind because each of us as humans, our brains are inundated with marketing messages and people and things and decisions and places to be and people to go and kids to raise and responsibilities. So our brain has to do a great job of filtering. One of the best jobs our brains do is to filter unrelevant information that's irrelevant today, but it might be relevant later. Well, guess what? You might be relevant today and relevant later, but if they don't need you until later, how do you remain top of mind? Okay. So she doesn't come to my seminar, but because she's on my seminar list, she's on my email list. It's about 18 months later, and I get a phone call from this particular prospect, and she says to me, hey, I've been getting your emails for like the last year and a half. I signed up to come to your event back then. By the way, we had the event every month or every other month. My memory would remind me. But so she didn't come to any event, even though she signed up. She never made it to one of the events. And the call goes like this: I'd like to engage with your company. And we ended up doing 6 business transactions over the next 90 days. So to back you up, she entered my world through an invitation to come to a seminar, which, by the way, that seminar was a free seminar. She didn't come, but she's on my email list. I didn't even know who she was. And we continued to give and provide value over that next 18-month period of time. That day, the phone rings and she becomes a client of mine. And we do 6 transactions, 6 business transactions, monetary transactions. And again, I don't have the exact dollars, but I think those were about $2,000 transactions back then. So she yielded $12,000 to my business gross, all because we sent some silly emails. Now, those emails, just so you know, you're going to see how the structure of those emails are sort of the base level of the structure. But those emails didn't say, "Hey, become a client this week." And next week's email didn't say, "Hey, become a client next week," and the week after, and the week after. That's not how it works. And I'll break that down for you in just a moment. Let me give you a second big example, and I'm going to drive this point home to hope you understand. So I made $12,000 in gross revenue in a short period of time after she became a client, all because she registered for an event, didn't show up, and we stayed in touch and provided value over 18 months. And it didn't cost me next to nothing. 2016, a gentleman gets out of dental school, and he contacts our agency to help his company, help his practice start to market in his local market, local SEO, social media, Google Ads. Well, we were a little pricey for a startup dental firm. So he bought our training course at that time, so that he was like, okay, I guess I'll have to do some of the marketing myself because, I can't afford you guys right now. And that's perfectly okay. So for companies that are not ready to hire our agency, we can teach and provide some DIY services and help make sure that if you're going to do your own marketing, you at least do it right. And that's one of our best invitations to anyone who comes in our world. Anyway, he does the work for 2 years. He does the work for 2 years. He does the work. And let me be clear, we can't teach every move in the course, right? Because marketing is dynamic. But he does the work. Next thing you know, the phone rings about 2 years and 2 months later, and he says, "I'm ready to hire the agency." And when I say he's ready to hire the agency, I mean there wasn't any negotiation. He was like, "How much does it cost? I'm ready, but I can't be doing any more of this marketing because my practice is growing based on the strategies you gave me." And he became a client, stayed a client for about 4 years until the pandemic, 3.5, 4 years until the pandemic. Want to say that his retainer was about $18,000 per year times 3.5 years, all because we stayed in touch by email. I got one more for you, and then I'll get into the training. We had a gentleman who contacted our agency in or around 2018. And I don't remember exactly what he reached out to us for, but he was going to be starting a different business. He was getting ready to start a business, sorry, and wanted to inquire about getting started, obviously, local website, things of that nature. Never started the business. The business opportunity went silent for us. We call it a lost opportunity because we have to mark it in our CRM whenever a transaction doesn't close within a period of time, as you probably have in your CRM. So we marked it as a lost deal. When we lose a deal, we don't delete someone out of our database though. So he continued to receive emails from us. He invitations to our seminars, invitations to our webinars, invitations to download worksheets and things of that nature. Lo and behold, we get a phone call or someone, he comes back to our website in 2023, September or August of 2023. And same thing. Hey, I didn't do that business, but I never forgot you guys. I never forgot you. I've been getting your emails all these years. He too then became a client of ours in the next week or two after that phone call. My point to this message is you're leaving so much money on the table by disrespecting email and the power of email communication and what it does. Let's talk about what it does, and then I'm going to show you how we think about it. All right, so let's talk about some of my secrets to high performing email campaigns But before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit about what it does, why we should be paying attention to it. And if you've been disrespecting email, I want to do my doggone best to sell you on changing your mind before this training is over. So email does a number of things. Number one, it is uh, often thought of that email isn't relevant anymore because of the things you see on the screen. We get lots of spam, all of it, everyone's inboxes are full of stuff. And it seems like today we're just bombarded with offers and all these kinds of things. And one thing that we find with a lot of business owners is the they think that it's not necessary to share relevant information to their prospects. I think email is best for a few things. Number one, deepening your relationship with a prospect who hasn't converted yet. That's one you want to write down. Deepen the relationship with a prospect who hasn't converted yet. Number two, you stay top of mind and relevant to a prospect or a customer who has already transacted business with you. And you want to stay top of mind so that you can do what we call in our step 5 part of our playbook, which is enhance the lifetime value, increase the lifetime value of that customer. One thing that I learned 20 plus years ago, probably 25 years ago, even before digital became something we would use in my businesses. But one of the things I always learned is that every person you meet is an asset to your business, whether they pay you or not. And here's what I mean by that. And here's what I've come to understand is that every person you meet is a relationship. Every person you meet is the seed of an opportunity. Now, that opportunity may or may not be to do business with you, but remember, every person knows about 200 people, according to psychologists. So as people go through their life, they're going to know and have a close network with about 200 people. And let me be clear about one thing right away is that there's no higher ROI prospect than one that was referred to you, right? So when we combine the idea that everyone loves getting referrals because they're coming based on the trust of someone else. Well, when we combine that with email, then every person who enters your life, every person who enters your world has the potential to become an asset to your business, whether they do business with you or not. Because if you can influence them through your knowledge, your expertise, and over time staying top of mind, then if someone they know needs you, you get the referral. Okay, let's go a little deeper. Okay, I'm going to give you some statistics. I didn't make these numbers up. HubSpot, for those that know, we're a HubSpot partner. Obviously, this is a few years ago, but the numbers still reign true today. $36 for every dollar invested in email marketing. $36 for every dollar you invest in email marketing. And some of you might be thinking, well, that's not what I see in my business. Well, that's perhaps going to change if you're open, right? Because you could just be doing it wrong. You could not be doing some of the things I'm going to share with you here in just a few moments. So this number ranges from 36 to 42. I don't know that I've ever seen a study where it was less than 35. And it's just that powerful. Like if you look at the 3 examples I gave you, so someone signed up for an email, or someone signed up for a seminar, didn't do anything with us for 18 months. I sent maybe an email a week. I think our cadence at the time was an email a week over 18 months. So I sent 18 emails. How much did that cost me? Nothing, next to nothing. Because guess what? I didn't just send it to her. I sent it to our entire email list. Okay, 36 to 1. I'm not going to beat this over your head, but if you need proof of this, just Google what's the ROI of email marketing in 2024 at the time you're watching this video. These numbers aren't made up. Okay, but here's the thing. There are a few types of emails that you can send, and people often get caught up in the 3. Here's the 3. Number 1 is something we call a broadcast email or a broadcast email newsletter, which is what I traditionally believe every business should have. So if someone comes in your world and you're not at least sending, I think 1 is a minimum number. Like I don't even know if 1's sufficient, but some businesses probably could get away with 1 email a month or 1 newsletter a month or 1 broadcast per month, where you're just keeping your list updated on what's happening in their industry, what's happening in your world as a company. That's probably the minimum viable. I would recommend everyone listening to this, you need at least a once a week communication over time to remain top of mind. It's the same thing I did 20 years ago. Nothing really has changed. Now, depending on your market, people get confused between broadcast and or newsletter emails, and they get confused with promotional emails. And an example of that would be the pizza place that we order from here in my local market, in my local neighborhood. And they send, when you sign up on their newsletter, on their rewards program, right? You get an email from them. I think I get an email from them maybe 5 times a week because they're changing things that are on sale. They're changing things that are promoted. This week they're offering pepperoni for this price, and next thing is cheesy bread, and next thing it's, buy the whatever they call them. Well, guess what? Those are promo emails. Those are from a commerce perspective. And that is not what I'm about to share with you now, which is what I call one of the most, especially if you're selling long-term sales cycle, B2B services, professional services, and even products. We're going to get into the third type of email. And some of you confuse promo emails as your ordinary everyday emails. Well, if you're a restaurant and you want to let me know that pizza's on sale, and you know that in my neighborhood, you know that you're marketing to a neighborhood where families don't have enough time to make dinner, then sending an email 5 times a week about pizza, that's a different story. But you're probably not sending an email 5 days a week about plumbing. You're probably not sending an email 5 times a week about how you're going to help them in their personal injury law case. You're not sending them. You don't need to send them 5 emails a week that invites them to get their taxes done. And I'm just using a couple of simple examples here. But the thing that's missing, especially as the work that we do in lead generation, when we do our work with lead generation, brand awareness, lead generation, customer acquisition, those are the 3 primary pillars. A lot of us will spend the money on the ads, the Facebook ads. They'll put the money into the creative, the website design, and making sure it looks pretty. It all looks great. Then you get a company like us, or you hire someone internally and they start running the ads on Facebook or social media or Google or whatever that may be, doing the SEO. And then you wonder why all the traffic's coming to your website, but they're not buying. And yet you're not even inviting them to come into your world. You're just sharing information on your website, running your ads. Well, the thing that we often find that most companies can benefit from is what I'm going to share with you right now. And it's a simple email marketing sequence or workflow or automation. It's called a number of different things depending on what tool you're using. And by the way, you don't need any special tool. HubSpot does it. ActiveCampaign does it. ConvertKit does it. There's a lot of them that do it. Like whatever you're using works. Mailchimp probably does it. Constant Contact does it. There isn't an email marketing tool today that doesn't do what I'm about to show you. This is as simple as it gets. This is as simple as you can use right now to get more leverage in your time, to get more awareness with your prospect once they come into your world. But it also assumes that you have a reason for them to want to opt in to your email list, right? So I can't tell you how many websites I audit on a yearly basis still to this day. It's well into the hundreds. And I got to tell you that still probably 2 out of 10, maybe 1.5 out of 10, even invite their visitors into an informational or educational journey about how they can solve their problem. Most of you today are still just saying, buy my stuff, book a call, schedule an appointment, check out. That's only going to be a small fraction. In fact, HubSpot will tell you through their data, $30 billion company, I'm not making this up, this is their numbers. They'll tell you still that 96% of every website visitor you ever get from wherever they came from is not ready to buy today. And yet you're just focused on selling those 4%. Now, I'm not saying don't focus on the 4%, but what are you doing with the 96? And that's what I recognized 20 plus years ago. So if you are willing to put something in place, by the way, if you looked at my paid advertising, power of paid advertising module on day 4, then I talked to you about how to put something in place so that someone would want to opt in to your email list, to opt in to your website before they're ready to buy. So if you haven't watched that, you go back and watch that there. We're going to dive into what do you do after they've opted in, okay? Let's dive in so I can get you out of here. So again, I'm just going to review what we talked about in the core lead generation module that I gave you as a bonus yesterday. But of course, you need to have an offer. An offer simply means an invitation, some reason why someone might want to give you their email address to stay in touch with you. They're going to find that usually on a landing page. There's going to be a capture form. And then, of course, you're going to have an email provider. I don't care which one you use. If you're working with us or you want us to help you, we're going to help you with HubSpot. We do know a number of the other platforms, but we specifically work on HubSpot. We can talk to you about that if you want. Okay. Broadcast emails and then automation. Today, we're talking about automation. Okay. So, what do you do in email number one? It's pretty straightforward. I can't tell you how many times I opt in on a website and all they do is put up a thank you message on the screen. There's a thank you message. Thank you for requesting our resource. Thank you for reaching out to us. Thank you. We've sent your message to our sales team. That's horrible. It's like a horrible experience today, right? The person leaves their website and they don't know what's going to happen next, right? So we in our lead generation workshop, we talk about really good thank you pages that work really well to remove the question in the prospect's mind of what's going to happen next. If you go back to something I said in either module 1 or module 2, is you don't want to make your prospects think about what's going to happen next. It's our job to tell them. Okay. So email number 1 is very straightforward. Most of you get this right if you are doing this. And that is you follow up your the when the lead becomes a lead, you follow up with a free you follow up by providing them the free resource. What is the resource? It might be a coupon if you're an e-commerce store. It might be an ebook, a checklist, a white paper, whatever it was that they signed up for, get them the thing. Some people say to me, well, Darrell, I'm just going to put the thing on the thank you page. And then I say, that's a great idea as well. However, what if the internet goes out in the middle of that transition from page 1 to page 2? What if they're at the grocery store and they were just killing time in the line and then they got distracted by the cashier asking them to check out? What if the child who was taking a nap woke up from a nap and now the baby's screaming and they put it down? It's okay. Put it on the thank you page, please do, but make sure you send them the email ASAP right away, and automation can take care of that for you. Next, the next thing you do is what we call an engagement email. This engagement email, as many of you know, right now email is getting tougher. Don't let me mislead you. Email is tougher than it used to be, right? You look around the internet, all open rates are going down, blah 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 blah. At the end of the day, the only reason email rates are going down is because of bad characters who are spamming. But if you're not a spammer, then you're going to be fine if you follow these basic rules of thumb. Number 2, in email number 2, you send them an email and say, "Hey, did you get it? Did you get the thing that you requested? Did you get the coupon? Did you get the white paper? Did you get the link to the video?" Now, you know your system delivered it. But what you're doing here is you're actually asking them to reply to a question that will then send a signal back to Yahoo or Gmail or Outlook or wherever their ESP is, the email service provider is, that you're a legitimate person that they want to communicate with. Okay. It's not salesy, but you're saying, hey, did you get it? Number 1, they're going to open it. That subject line, by the way, that's the subject line. Did you get it? Question mark. And then they open that and they're like, oh, yeah, I got it. They may not reply, but if they do, it's even better. What do you do in email 3? Email number 3, we like to call it an empathy email. Doesn't have to be email number 3, but we like it in email number 3. And that's an email where you start to empathize with their problem or condition or circumstance that they're in that brought them in to be a lead in your business. Okay. So in my business, let's say they are reaching out to us for one of our ebooks or trainings on generating more leads from social media marketing. This email might say something like, want help with social media? Well, in that email, we might be describing, if you've been advertising on social media and things haven't been going well, then maybe you're challenged with some of the recent changes on the Meta platform, and go deeper into the problem, because we're trying to meet them where they are. It's a good phrase to write down. We're trying to meet them where they are. We're also trying to let them know we understand. That's what the word empathy means. We understand where they're coming from, right? We already know what they opted in for. So now let's continue to articulate and share with them that we understand their situation. And of course, in any of these emails, you're going to call with a light call to action. These aren't heavy sales emails, okay? Another style of email that we like is email number 4, which is a proof email, right? You want to share. And by the way, this series are these models here are just templated models, and they just repeat themselves throughout the life cycle of these campaigns. A proof email is very straightforward, right? Show them that you know what you're doing through the eyes of someone else. One of the best emails I ever remember writing, we had a LASIK eye center a number of years ago. And we learned deeply working through the buyer persona work and working with the doctor and the doctor was so successful. I mean, 50,000 surgeries he had done on eyes. And as we learned who his buyer was and how we could help scale, and we put the sequence in place for him. I mean, one of the best emails was better vision by Monday. That was the subject line. Better vision by Monday. And we told a story of one of his clients in the email. We didn't write the story. We just got the story from his website or from his online review platform. People want to know that other people have had success with what you're doing. Okay. Number 5, authority. At some point, you've got to tell them you're the best in the business, right? At some at some point, you've got to look them in the face through email and say, this is why you should buy from me. I'm going to stick to the LASIK exam. We needed to tell those prospects that I've done 50,000 surgeries. I know what the heck I'm doing. I didn't just get out of school yesterday. And there's a good way to write that email. Right. And so in the subject line, I want to say, I'm just thinking of that campaign. I write so many campaigns. We've written so many over the years. I want to say we might have said, 50,000 surgeries since XYZ date. We are saying right up front that we got you, right? I didn't just get out of school. I'm not going to be practicing on your eyes, right? And that's important. Authority emails, super big. Don't lead with authority emails, right? Don't make that email number 1, 2, or 3. These are interchangeable and mixed around. This is kind of the standard way that we put them together, okay? But authority emails are key. I like to come back with another empathy. I love empathy-based emails. You're never going to run a prospect off with continuously and from a different angle reminding them that you understand the problem they're trying to solve. You understand the things that are getting in the way. You understand their frustrations. You understand their concerns. You understand their hesitations. You understand that it didn't work in the past and that they're nervous about moving forward with you. If you don't get anything in your marketing, you want to understand and make sure they know that you get them. Yeah. Okay. Next, email number 6. Actually, I think I had that in there twice. Empathy again. Sorry about the mistake. I love email number 7. It doesn't have to be number 7. By the way, those of you who work emergency service businesses, for example, I'm going to pull one out of the air. We could use HVAC. Happens to be that I said the word air. If you're an HVAC company, if you're a plumbing company, if you're a personal injury attorney, if you're a locksmith, there are a number of different types of businesses where things are an emergency, right? Well, that means you're going to change this sequence in the time cadence that's relevant for your business. I'm going to use personal injury attorneys, for example. Remember when we first started working with them in 2012, and I remember we talk a lot about the buyer's journey because all of this is predicated on your buyer's journey. So there is no way to pick this up and say, oh, send one email this day and then that day and then that every 5 days. I'm going to show you a template in just a moment, but you have to model it to your buyer's journey. Well, in personal injury, we were taught by folks in the industry that if someone believes they've got an injury case and they want to seek an attorney, they're probably going to land on an attorney within days, 2 to 3 days maximum of their injury or their accident. And so that means that when someone found our personal injury attorneys marketing through our ads or SEO or whatever that may be, then our sequence and our cadence had to be quick. So that means we weren't taking a chance, that we needed to get their butt in the seat at the office now. Now, of course, today you can do other things with text messaging and online chats, but the goal was get their butt in the seat. And so we had to speed this cadence up. Number 7's email, I call it a challenge or consequences email. And that email simply reminds them, especially if they haven't converted into your world yet to a sales meeting or whatever that next step is, you want to remind them that indecision or no decision has a consequence, right? If you need this help and you raised your hand and came into my world and you're now on email 7, I need to remind you that there are consequences if you don't take action, right? The easiest way to think about this is when we see the emails that say the offer expires Friday at midnight, right? Go to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Prime Day in July. The grocery store, they put out prices on Wednesday and they expire on Tuesday. So there's got to be some level of confronting them with the fact that if you don't take any action here, your problem's not going to get better. And we know you have it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have opted in to this item. I hope I'm making sense. A case study email, pretty straightforward, pretty easy to think about. But again, now you're telling a story. This isn't a testimonial. This is not a testimonial. This is you telling a story of a client you've helped, a story of a situation. Just like I started at the very beginning of this video, I told you a story, which was a case study of my success way back when, 20 plus years ago, in terms of email. And again, you can mix this in, but you're telling it third party outside of you. Email number 9 is one I love as well, which is one where we take responsibility. In a way, we take responsibility as a marketer and we say, I'm kind of surprised. And the email, by the way, subject line, I didn't give you all subject lines here, but some of these are real subject lines. One subject line is I failed. The other subject line is I'm surprised. Now imagine you're on the receiving end of an email from someone that you've heard from, you opted into their email list, and the subject line is simply I failed. The human brain has no choice but to say, you failed at what? And now you're opening that email. I'm surprised. Same thing. You're surprised at what? See, curiosity is one of the best things you can do in the email, but you can't just use catchy subject lines to increase your open rate and then don't deliver. Well, now what you're saying in this email is you're letting them know that you're surprised that they haven't taken you up on your invitation, your offer to book a meeting, to buy the product, whatever they may be. This is kind of like the challenge email, except it's from the other side. When you challenge someone, you're like, hey, if you don't do something about this, the problem's not going to go away. On this email, you're taking responsibility of saying, I'm surprised that you haven't reached out to us because you opted in for this. You must have this problem. We understand how to solve it. We've proven we can solve it through other folks. And I'm just kind of surprised that you haven't taken us up on it. You haven't booked your meeting. You haven't bought the product. What is there any way we can help? Right. So this is another great email. You can't use this every week. You use this every now and then in the sequence, but another fantastic email. Let's see what else we got here. The breakup email. I love the breakup email. The breakup email is only for sales, by the way. You don't use this and tell someone on your email list you're going to break up with them because they haven't bought. Usually the breakup email is great as a sales sequence email that when the prospect, I use today's terms, when the prospect has ghosted you and you've already sent them a proposal because they asked for one and they indicated they were ready to buy today, but now for some reason they just went cold on you. They ghosted you. They haven't responded. And so this is a way to sort of see if they're still involved, if they're still paying attention, if they're still considering the offer. In my business specifically, it's not uncommon for stakeholders. There'd be multiple stakeholders in hiring an agency like ours. And so generally speaking, we're just trying to get an understanding is this still important to you? Should we back, so that's kind of how you do it. You write a personal email that makes the assumption that either they've solved the problem, maybe with someone else, or that they're not ready to work with you yet. So you're really just trying to get them to say, hey, here's where I'm at. It doesn't mean you're breaking up and you're never going to communicate with them again. But as if you've got a sales team, there's nothing worse than having your sales team chasing prospects who just aren't ready yet. Remember, now, never, and later. Later is where most people are. So if it's later, I'd just rather know. So we use this email to find out if it's later and how much later it may be. One of the first years out of college, when I first started in financial services at that time, there was no urgency ever to buy stocks or bonds or financial services or CDs or mutual funds or life insurance or disability. There was never an urgency to do that stuff. Every now and then you might have one, but it was almost always going to be later. So we had to figure out how to determine if in fact it was later. One of the best emails you can put into your mix so that you can re-engage a prospect who was interested, who'd seemed to disappear. Now, I got to give credit, shout out to my man, Dean Jackson. I learned this email back in 2003 or 4-ish, right after I started my journey. I was in a coaching program back at the time. He shared with us this email. Still one of the most powerful emails today. If you ever have prospects, either at the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, or bottom of the funnel, who have just gone cold, they've gone unengaged, they haven't opened emails in 15 weeks or 12 months or whatever that might be, before you delete those emails, please, please, please understand that you need to use Dean Jackson's 9-word email. And it goes very simply like this. And you do not change this, by the way. In fact, if you do, I'll tell Dean and he'll come get you. Now, shout out to Dean if you're watching this. He's not going to come get you. He's one of the coolest cats on the planet. This guy's demeanor is something else. The subject line, assuming you are collecting the first name in the lead gen process, their first name is all that goes in the subject line. I'm telling you, this email will take it to you will wake people up who've been dead in your world. And that's what it's called, the 9-word email that revives dead leads. Their first name only is all that goes in the subject line. Let me think about it. Have you ever been in a crowded, people ask me, why does this work so well? Have you ever been in a crowded mall, maybe at a ballpark, maybe at the movies, anywhere where there was loud rustling and bustling and a crowd of noise here in the Las Vegas Strip? But somehow you hear your name coming from a distance and you're looking around and you're like, I know I just heard my name, right? But it was somebody talking to someone else who has your name and they were calling for that person, not you, but you hear your name, you pay attention to your name. So imagine you get your email and let's say your name is Jonathan and all that's in the subject line is Jonathan. You have to open the email. You just have to, right? So job number 1, get the email open. Job number 2, are you still interested in insert the thing they inquired about? Are you still interested in growing your business online? In my world. Are you still interested in generating more leads from Facebook? In my world. Are you still interested in better vision by Monday? If we're talking about the LASIK Eye Center. Are you still interested in saving money on your electricity bills for our solar company, etc., etc., etc.? And here's the key. You don't put this big, long series of paragraphs in this email. And the last piece that throws everybody for a loop is you sign it with your first name only. Darrell, Don, Becky, Cameron. No signature, CEO, co-founder, your name, website domain, here's our email, here's our phone, here's our fax, and here's our social media profiles. None of that. First name only. Your first name. It starts with their first name, one sentence, your first name. I promise you, if you have leads that have gone cold, write that email today and hit me up and let me know how it worked out. You're going to be surprised. All right, let's go home. Let's take this home. I want to just share with you how campaigns work. People don't believe me when I tell people all the time we're getting 20, 30, 40% open rates, sometimes 50, sometimes 60, but people open these emails and you're missing a huge opportunity if you're not doing this stuff, right? So, so it looks like I did pull in the LASIK example from a bunch of years ago. It was really just a game changer. So again, I don't want his competitors seeing this. So the first one is where we delivered the report. I'm not going to tell you what it says in the report, but again, this is for LASIK Eye Center. You can see it was open at 55%. The second email says amazing vision by Monday. Proof email. I'm telling you the type of email it is here. 50%. Is blank safe? Obviously, I told you it was a LASIK Eye Center, so now it's LASIK. You know that. Is LASIK really safe? That was an empathetic email because we knew the buyer had concerns about the safety of the surgery. 37%. He hated wearing glasses and said, I forget what it says here in the full subject line, but he hated wearing glasses. It was a testimonial email because we got it right out of his past customer database, 37%. Kate finally took the plunge, another testimonial, 40%. Does the company offer financing? I'm not telling you the name of the company. Offer financing. And that was an empathetic email because we knew price was a concern. So we're trying to meet them where they are empathetically, 40%. This was the proof email. This was actually a little bit more than proof. It was actually proof plus authority because this is where we said he'd done over 50,000 procedures, 28%. And then the last one was, could you do me a favor? Could you do me a favor as a call to action? I didn't include that in my first 10 because really there's way more than 10 templates. I just wanted to share with you some of the best ones. And that was a 40%. Notice one thing here. There's 0 spam scores. We got a small spam score here on number 8. Okay. And you can see the cadence here, by the way, on when these emails went out. This is not deemed to be the cadence you should use. Your cadence should be defined by your buyer's journey. And if you need help with that, you work with us or you know what that looks like. Don't believe anybody's template that says, oh, send them an email every day for 5 days, send them an email every week for 10 weeks. You must know how your buyer thinks. And we do that work in our buyer personas. Let's see what else we got here for you today. This was another fun campaign. Oh, super fun campaign. This company helped individuals who had found themselves in a very difficult financial situation. I'm trying to tell you what this is so we don't give it away, so we don't give his competitors an edge on what we're doing here. You lose your job, let's say, and for whatever reason now you can't pay your bills. Like you lost your job, you had a medical situation that caused you to be out of work or change jobs or change careers. Something caused you a medical setback, and instead of filing bankruptcy, you're working with a company like this that helps negotiate down these debts and helps you get out of that situation. Okay, that's basically all I'll say about that. So the person is in financial pressure, they're under financial stress, they're under mental stress, they're under emotional stress. And here are some of the things that we found that worked really well for them. Okay, so we gave them their report, which again, not telling you the name of the report. They got that immediately, 50% open rate. Then we used their first name here and we said, quick question for you. Going back to what I said in email number 2, quick question for you is designed to get engagement. We want them to write back, 47%. It's okay to be afraid, empathy. It's okay to be afraid. We understand that something happened to you. We understand that we understand you're afraid. We understand the bill collectors are calling. We understand that bankruptcy is looming. We understand you're tired of the phone call. We understand. I remember these campaigns like they're going out of style because it's one of my favorite things to do because it gets the best work. It gets the best ROI. Next email was tired of your financial problems. Now we're doing something called pain agitation. I didn't actually talk about that email, but pain agitation, we're really challenging them. It's actually more like that challenge email. We're saying, listen, if you don't do something about this, let's go. 40% open rate. When bad things happen to good people, empathetic. Everybody's not bad who has this happen. But if you're thinking you're a bad person because this happened to you, this is when bad things happen to good people. So we're reminding them that they're good people, right? 36%. We all make mistakes, right? Empathetic with their first name, 36%. Are you going to let them win? This is the pain agitation. This is that challenge email. Are you going to let them win? Because in this particular situation, there was a time clock. There was a time clock on the resolution of this stuff. And if you keep delaying, then we were saying, look, are you going to let these creditors win? Don't let them do that. We got you, 31%. And then what have you decided to do? This campaign came to an end however many days after this sequence. And this last one was a call to action where we're like challenging them. Listen, what have you decided? Maybe you decided to do nothing. Maybe you decided in their case, they could have filed bankruptcy, which would have excluded my client. Maybe you are going to just let them win. Just let us know what you're going to do. Okay. I hope I'm giving you guys some great ideas here. I'm going to bring up ours really quick. One of our campaigns, these campaigns have been in place for quite some time. This same 7-part sequence is in place on our website to this day. And so when someone downloads our playbook, they're going to get email number 1. I don't know why it's not in order, but whatever. They're going to get email number 2, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is more like an e-course and not a very deep lead generation to conversion sequence. We lead with education. So you can notice here that from whatever time period this was, you can see open rates from 48%, 28%, 29%, 31%, 32%, 33%, 43%. I hope you got some value. We'll have a couple other resources down below this video. And I just want to thank you for spending some time with us during day 5 of the Small Business Week series. And do me a favor. What are you going to do today? If you've got some old leads that haven't converted, do me a favor and use the 9-word email today. Hit the subscribe button so you can become a part of the MindShift community. We'll help you shift your mind so you can shift your results.